Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for taking a couple minutes to check today's video out. Much appreciated. And today we're going to give an advanced theory seminar on buzzbait fishing. I've been doing, some videos on beginning techniques and advanced techniques, and it seems like there's a lot of guys out there that sort of fall into both categories. Not that, and anybody can learn something from either or, but I'm going to sort of mix them up a little bit, advanced and beginning, and to cover a lot of different techniques. And today we're going to talk about advanced buzzbait techniques that a lot of people probably don't know about. But real quick, guys, for just a couple of housekeeping tips, just wanted to give a daily reminder. Guys, go on fishthemoment.com, check out our new fall lake map breakdowns. We're really kicking them out right now. A lot of good lakes across the country. And also, if you guys want to help support the channel here a little bit, I'll include the Bait Works link and the Boat Works link. If you guys are interested in ordering any tackle or looking for a new boat, order them through that link. Excuse me, guys, is a great way to support the channel. It gets small percentage of those sales if you do that, so that'd be much appreciated. So let's talk about buzzers a little bit. Buzzers have been around longer than what a lot of people realize. I remember when my mom and dad used to take me down to vacation down at Table Rock Lake back in the early 70s. In the little resort, mom and pop resort we stayed at there, when you checked in, they had some fishing tackle up on the wall. And I remember for years there, when I was a little kid, they had these things called lunker lures. And, which looked just like the lunker lure buzzbait of today, except it had a bucktail skirt on it. And I looked at that thing and it's like, I didn't even know it was a topwater. I thought it was like something you reeled into the surface. And I said, that's the ugliest looking lure that I've ever seen. No wonder they're still up on the wall here, because there's no way a fish would hit that. And I don't think anybody even knew how to fish them back then, because if they did, they probably would have ripped them back that long ago on a buzzer. But so the buzzbait's been around a long time, pretty much unchanged. There's been some modifications to it a little bit that we're going to go across to here. But basically what I wanted to talk about today in this advanced philosophy buzzbait thing is I want to talk a little bit about the types of buzzbaits, as far as which work better under certain situations, a little bit of technique on how to fish them and the areas to look for, and time of year to fish them. So anyway, when we're talking about buzzers, I want to talk about three basic buzzbaits, and I've got them out here. And when I talk about the three, they're basically the size of the buzzer and the blade size. Now, the buzzer profiles, a lot of companies make different profiles as far as the length of the buzzbait. They make it different blade sizes, they make different head sizes, different hook shank lengths, that type of stuff. But ultimately, the big consideration for me is the weight of the buzzer in relationship to the blade side. I use three different buzzbaits, three different sizes, and I use a lot of different companies' buzzbaits, not just one. But the first one is a half ounce. This is the Jamaican Boa by Megabass. This is probably my favorite size to use as a half ounce buzzer. So it's got the larger blade on it. And then you've got the 3/8 ounce buzzer, which is a little bit smaller blade on there. And then you've got the little 1/8 ounce, which is also one of my favorites. So here's the difference between the 1/8 ounce and the half ounce. You can see it's quite a bit different size difference on there. It's sort of hard to hold the camera here and hold these two things up at once, but you can see the significant blade size difference. And there's applications for all three. Now, out of the half ounce, 3/8 and 1/8 ounce, I probably use the 3/8 less than anything. The 3/8 ounce head, for the most part, it's a good all-around head as far as fishing. What are you doing? Are you out of bed this morning? Huh? Did you get up? Okay, you still waking up? Can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Okay. I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna get him woke up here a little bit. Okay, guys, got Elijah squared away. He's playing with his toys over there. So he'll be back over here before the video's over. But anyway, back to the sizes of the buzzers. Out of the course of a year, guys, I'm gonna say that probably if throughout all my buzzbait fishing of the year, I use the 3/8 ounce size less than any of them by far. I probably only use it about 10% of the time, if even that. I may not even use that. For me, when I'm buzzbait fishing and the type of water I'm looking for buzzbait fishing it's usually the 1/2 ounce size or the 1/8 ounce size is the ones I go to. And I'm going to explain why here in a little bit more. But a lot of people out there like the 3/8 ounce size. They're comfortable with it. They're comfortable with it just like the 1/2 ounce spinnerbait or something, or 3/8 spinnerbait. But from my perspective, and this is another tip I want to give you, I have found over the course of fishing buzzbaits for almost 50 years that I just don't get near as many bites on a 3/8 ounce size for whatever reason. It could be the blade size, it could be the pitch it throws off, whatever. That's one tip I want to give you guys. It seems like there's always the situation where I either go big or small better. And when I'm talking about going small, like the little 1/8 ounce buzzer like this, I'm not just after small fish. I've caught a bunch of quality bass on the 1/8 ounce buzzer. I'm talking a lot of 4-pound plus fish. So when I'm going to a smaller buzzer, it's not because I'm trying just to get more bites. It's because it matches the situation a little bit more. Now let's talk a little bit about the buzzer design and everything. There's two elements to a buzzer. You can have your buzzbait, spinning freely. In fact, let me go back. I'm going to go in the tackle room here, guys. I'm going to set the camera up so I can actually hold these things and show you a little better. Just one second. Okay, this is a lot better, guys. I got two hands to work with here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sound and design of the buzzbait. Now, on a buzzer, there's two different elements that create sound with a buzzbait. And one is if you have just a free swinging buzzer where it's not hitting anything. It's not clacking against anything. And you can make any buzzbait do this by bending the blade out. And it's just the blade spinning. And what this does, it creates a lot more subtle noise across the surface. You don't have near the pitch of the clacking noise. And so you've got that sound. And then you have the clacking sound, which is usually because the buzzbait hitting the head here. Most buzzers, they've got a flat type of a head here where this buzzbait can hit the actual part of the head and make a clack. And you can make that clack as loud or soft as you want, basically by how much pressure you put against the head. So that's the two different sounds that you have on it. Let me get a little sort of like that, where it occasionally hits it. That's another thing. You got to tune these things just right, where they can spin yet clank at the same time. Takes a little bit of bending in it, but it's sort of like that. So you got the spinners and the clackers. For the most part, this is what I found. If you're fishing an area where you got sparser cover, or you may have to pull a fish from a greater distance, and this can be like around some type of grass bed. It can be open water, shallow banks, places where you're not throwing like right to a specific target, like a stump or a rock like that. I find that the buzzbaits that don't clank, that just spin like this, get me some more bites. It just seems like at times they want more of a subtle sound. Also, they want the more subtle sound if you don't have a lot of wind on the surface. If it's fairly calm, if the water maybe be a little bit clearer, that type of thing, or if the fish are a little bit more spooky, a little bit heavier pressure. But the time that I want the clacking noise, where it's against the head, it could be low light conditions, raining, a little bit of chop on the water, that type of situation. And a lot of times it's a matter of experimentation. You don't really know the personality or the mood of the fish until you try it. Buzzbait fishing, a lot of times for me, it's like it has to do with how the cover that you're fishing is positioned in relative to water depth. One of my favorite type of areas to fish a buzzbait in is around any type of shallow grass, like gator grass, shallow milfoil, any type of shallow bank grass, or lily pad, something like that, in super shallow, dirty water. And when I'm in a situation like that, that's when those fish are real sensitive to the noise. So you just have to experiment with a little bit with that. So the noise also, you can change it too. There's a couple other elements that determine it. Is the squeaking that the buzzbait makes when it's not hitting, you can see this one right here. This is a brand new mega bass, so it's not squeaking much. But what you can do is you can take the blade off of here and then take a metal file and you can rough up the contact points right there with a metal file on both ends, get them real rough, and then you're going to have more of a squeak to it when it actually turns. And this is really good, I found out, particularly if you're fishing water temperatures that are a little bit on the cool side for top water. And I'm talking water temperatures like 55 to 60 degrees, which is actually one of my favorite times to fish a buzzer, is when it's a little bit cool for most people to be throwing it. But for some reason, in that cooler water, they really like that squeaking noise quite a bit. A lot of people used to hang them out their door, you know, let it go down the highway blowing, and eventually it gets squeaking. But you can do the same thing by roughing it up with a file like that. So the pitch and the noise on a buzzer are going to be different based upon that factor and also the wire diameter on the thing. Let's talk a little bit now about the skirts. Now there has been a big change or a big push in buzzbaits to go with like a horny toad or some type of a plastic trailer on it, guys. You see, in fact, you see it all the time. You hardly ever see a buzzbait with just a skirt on it. I'm here to tell you guys, I've experimented with this extensively. I put the horny toads, I put the Z-Craws, I put, you know, a bunch of different trailers on. I catch just as many bass on the old skirt as I do with any type of a toad on there. But the key on this, and there's two reasons why that I feel a skirt is a better option than a toad. You know, the toad, obviously, you got the leg action on there, so there's something to be said for that. But your color options are more limited when you're using a toad as a trailer, number one. When I'm using a skirt like this, I can mix and match exactly what I think the fish are feeding on. If they're on a bluegill bite, I can create a bluegill skirt. If they're on shad, I can create shad. You know, if they're on some type of you know, whatever bait fish is in the lake, I can create that. I mean, I can create a frog color on it. One of the big keys to catching bass on a skirted buzzbait over a frog is you need to make the skirt long. The mega bass makes this one long right out of the package, but what I do when I tie my own skirts is I make them extra long, so it actually creates a different look than as if somebody just created a straight buzzbait skirt like that.
Where's the boat?
So, yeah. Do what?
Where's the boat?
What do you? Oh, the boat?
Yeah.
Well, the boat is getting worked on right now, so it'll be back. Okay. The boat's not here right now, so he's a little concerned about that. So, anyway, skirts versus toads, I sort of see it, in my opinion, it's sort of like the braid to fluorocarbon guys. A lot of times you see everybody just goes to braid to fluorocarbon on spinning because they think that's what the pros do. I think there's a lot to be said with the buzzbait skirt or trailer on the thing. Is a lot of people see guys throwing a horny toad or a Z-Craw or some type of a frog behind it, and that's just automatically what they go to. Not that it doesn't work, it absolutely works. In my own experience, I've experimented a ton with it, and I get just as many or more bites with the skirt on there, and I've got a lot of confidence in the skirt. So most of the time in my buzzbait fishing, I'm using the skirt for the most part. Trailer, it's very necessary to use a trailer hook on here. Buzzbaits are notorious for getting short strikes. Piece of advice I'm going to give you guys on the trailer is go small on your trailer hook. If you go bigger, if you try to match your main hook size with your trailer hook size, it reduces the amount of bites that you get tremendously. So I go with a real small trailer hook, usually a number 2 on there, free swinging. And a lot of times, if I'm not fishing this bait like over the top of grass, I rig that trailer hook upside down. You get a lot more hookups on it if you rig it upside down where that point is underneath it. So if you're fishing around objects that you're not going to be getting snagged on, try throwing that thing upside down. It'll get you a lot more hookups on that. So let's talk about when to fish the two. Now here, I can hold it up to show you the big difference in it. Here's the difference in size between the 1/8 and the 1/2 ounce size. For the most part, when I'm using the 1/2 ounce size, it's when I feel that those fish are a lot more aggressive particularly early in the year. I use a big buzz bait almost exclusively in the early spring. When that water temperature first hits 55 degrees, that's my signal to start throwing a buzzer. And it's usually the big 1/2 ounce with the big blade on it. One of the reasons I like the big blade on there is I can really slow that bait down in cold water. And another tip I'll give you guys is on the head of the thing. You can slow your buzzer down a lot more by taking a file and filing off about half the weight of that head and keeping the same body on there, or keeping the same size blade on there. That oversized blade with the lighter head will allow you to keep that bait going really slow across the water. And that's what's key when you're fishing water temperatures under 60 degrees, is you just want that bait barely blub, 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 blurping along the surface. Just fast enough to keep it above the surface. I fish it like that up until the water gets 60, and then I also go back to that same technique in the late fall when the water temperatures start to fall below 60. That keeping that rod tip high, blub, 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 you know, just barely, you know, moving along. And you have to have a light head and a big blade to do that. Now, as I still stay with the bigger buzzer, you know, as it gets a little bit later, but after those fish start spawning and after they're done spawning, that's when a lot of times I'm going to the little 1/8 ounce size. It's like my post-spawn buzzbait technique pattern is if you're fishing a shallow water lake that's got a lot of dirty water, shallow cover, after those fish spawn and after it gets into the summertime of year, this is when I go to the little 1/8 ounce buzzer. And I'm fishing it around extremely shallow water. One of my favorite techniques. You want to go watch some cartoons? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go turn some cartoons on real quick. We'll be back. Okay, guys, back again. Now let's get back to the little 1/8 ounce buzzer here. The 1/8 ounce buzzer, I usually start throwing it sometime in May after the fish start spawning, and I stay with the 1/8 ounce buzzer pretty much all the way through late summer. And when in that period during the time of the year, one of the things that I found out about is you're going to catch a lot of fish on a buzzbait in the most dirty, most shallow part of the lake that you can find on the flatter banks. So this is the time of year when I'm going back in the coves and the creeks towards the back ends of them and looking for any shallow water targets I can find. If you've got a lake that has any type of bank grass, and it can be in the form of, like I said, pads, reeds, milfoil, shallow hydrilla, water willows, gator grass, whatever, and you have water visibility of under 2 feet, this little 1/8 ounce buzzer is deadly this time of year. And most of the time, it's a light bait. You can throw it on a bait caster, but I found that one of the things that I like to do with it is I'll throw it on a 7-foot, fairly stiff spinning rod with like 20-pound test straight braid on the thing. And I do throw all my buzz baits on braided line. I mean, you guys, you know, hear me talk a lot that I don't use braid, but I do use braided line all the time. Most of the time on the 1/2 ounce buzz bait, I'm using like 40-pound test Seagar smackdown braid, and 20 or 30 on the little 1/8 ounce buzzer. So that'll definitely help you out as far as a lot more hookups. Real quick on line on there. I've experimented a lot with line, and one of the big keys on a buzzer is you have got to penetrate the fish when they hit that thing, because on a big bait like this, you got a lot of hardware, you got to move this bait a lot in them, so a stiff rod with braid is a big key on that. So I'm throwing the little 1/8 ounce, back to the size, I'm throwing the little 1/8 ounce on, you know, the spinning rod all summer long, shallow water cover. And to be honest with you guys, when you're talking about time frames for a buzzer, I throw a buzzer heavily during the pre-spawn, right up to the spawn. I don't throw it that much from the post-spawn into late summer most of the time, unless I get into certain lakes that are really, really set up for that. And lakes that I would, the lakes that I'm talking about that are good buzzbait lakes throughout the summertime would be a lake like, if you're fishing Lake Eufaula in Alabama that's got shallow gator grass. If you're fishing a lake like Kerr Reservoir in Arkansas or Oklahoma, Lake Dardanelle in Arkansas, those places that have the dirty, shallow water grass, that's when the little 1/8 ounce buzzer will work for me in the summertime. But overall, in the most part, I don't throw it that much during that time of year. When I do start throwing the buzzer again a lot is in early fall, about September. and I go back to the big buzzer in September. It's still hot now. The water temperatures are, you know, the first part of September, like we're getting into now, the water temperatures are still hot, but you have a transition in the personality of the bass, and they're going to start moving shallower. They're still perch spawning. This is the time of year that I cover a ton of water with a big buzzer, the big 1/2 ounce buzzer. And I'm not really looking for dirty water with this. I'm looking to go into areas of the lake. The water clarity can be 4 foot or it can be 1.5 feet, but I'm covering a tremendous amount of water in the coves. And, you know, I think a lot of these fish are keyed in on spawning perch. Some of the fish are just naturally starting to move shallower, but fishing that big buzzer, just covering water, putting that trolling motor on a fairly quick speed, going back about halfway into the coves, getting tight on the bank and fishing all the way around the bank and out the other side, the back and out the other side, is one of my top techniques during the early fall. Now, as the water temperature gets colder in the fall and you start to get it down below 60 degrees, which in a lot of part of the country, it starts to get in November, about the time that a lot of people start thinking the fish are moving into a winter transition, that is my favorite time to fish a buzzbait aside from the pre-spawn. And when that water temperature gets below 60, I'm going back into the coves. I'm looking for the little bit steeper banks, and I'm throwing this big 1/2 ounce buzzer right on the bank. I'm talking about actually hitting the bank with the thing, pulling it out off the bank for a foot or two, and most of the time those fish hit it within a foot or two off the bank. One thing that I found out about fall buzzbait fishing is most people, their cast, the bait lands farther out than what the fish are, or the bait lands right on top of the area that the bait should be coming through. Buzzbait fish in the late summer and fall, guys, are extremely shallow. And it doesn't matter really what the water clarity is. So one of the biggest tips I'm going to give you guys for fishing that fall buzzbait pattern is just try to hit the bank with your buzzer and get it going quick. Let the speed of the retrieve on your buzzer be determined by the water temperature and water clarity. My speed on the buzzer is directly related to the water temperature. I'm fishing it a little bit faster, you know, in the early part of the fall, and then I slow it down as the water temperatures fall in late fall. Let me close the door. I got a barking dog out here. Just a second. I've got Sage out there. If there's a squirrel in the yard, she just can't stand it and just starts freaking out. So anyway, the retrieve speed on a buzzbait is really water temperature sensitive. So you hear all the time that, you know, bass their metabolisms are slower in cold water and more aggressive in hot water. Guys, in my opinion, there's not any bait that exemplifies that better than a buzzer. That is extremely true in buzzbait fishing. So let your speed of retrieve be determined by the water temperature. Also, let it be determined by the water clarity and the cover you're fishing. If you're fishing water that's fairly clear and doesn't have a lot of cover in it, you can speed it up a little bit more. But if you're fishing around cover like grass bed edges, isolated targets, stuff like that, and the water's not real clear, that's when you have to slow it down a little bit. Now, retrieves on these things. I very seldom throw a buzzbait and just reel it in, just with a straight retrieve. The only time that I really do that is in extremely cold water. If I'm fishing water temperatures that are in the low to mid 50s, and I love fishing a buzzer when the water temperature is 55 degrees, but I've caught them all the way down to 50 degrees on it. But if I'm fishing in that 50 to 55 degree range, that's when I'm using that blub, 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 just slow, barely moving retrieve. But all other than that, any other time that I'm fishing a buzzer, I'm fishing it super fast, or excuse me, I'm fishing it at a medium to fast retrieve, and I'm shaking that rod tip. I'm throwing it out there, and I'm shaking it real hard, you know, getting it, just going, you know, stop and go across the surface like that. And you're going to get a lot more strikes with that. So anyway, that's just a few advanced theory tips on the thing. There's a lot of other aspects to it. I would recommend, as far as equipment, again, staying with a braided line, going to at least a 7-foot rod. 7-foot rod will allow you to make a long cast with the bait. It allows you to get good hook penetration. It allows you to pitch and flip the buzzbait under tight cover, which I do sometimes. It's a really good thing there. So give them a try. You know, they've been catching fish for 50 years. They're still as productive as they've ever been before. At certain times, they're just a big of a staple as anything. Okay, we'll get some more just in a second. And one of the biggest mysteries in bass fishing to me is how bass have not gotten conditioned to this more than what they have. I mean, they are a little bit, but this thing telegraphs itself. It's got a unique sound, but there's something about it that really pulls the bass's strike reflex mechanism. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. Thanks for taking a little bit of time to getting the tip. I got to get another cartoon on for Elijah before we go to school. So you can say
I don't want to go to school.
You don't?
No.
Okay, well, say bye to everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, I got to get him to school, so we'll see you guys later. See ya.